Maine is weird, or at least it's unique. It's certainly different than the rest of the Northeast United States. And because Maine is weird, the birds are weird. Here are 8 reasons why Maine is weird. What state in America is closest to Africa? If you said Florida, you couldn't be more wrong. It's Maine. In fact, it's this spot in Maine right here. Quoddy Head State Park is far up the coast as you can get. This spot on the Maine coast bordering Canada is exactly 3,154 miles from Morocco, which explains everything. About 335 million years ago, more or less, the continents collided. Morocco smashed into Maine. Or Maine smashed into Morocco, we're not sure who was at fault. The point is, when you have whole continents crashing into each other, then breaking apart 170 million years later, the coastline is bound to be a jagged mess. Maine's coastline is so rugged that if you stretched it out, smoothed it out, it'd be longer than California's. So the Maine coast is full of bays and coves, all kinds of places for birds to get in, get a little relief from the North Atlantic. What colliding continents didn't do, the last ice age did. An ice sheet over a mile thick carved the tops off mountains, knocked boulders towards the sea, and carried sand all the way down to Massachusetts. In fact, a lot of Cape Cod is made up with Maine sand, and we may be wanting that back. On the Blueberry Barrens in Columbia Falls, you can actually see the ancient dunes where the glacier melted into the sea, back when the sea level was 200 or more feet higher. All that glacial till turned into great, well-drained sandy soil, perfect for growing blueberries. In fact, you're only seeing a small percentage of it, but these are the largest lowbush blueberry fields in the entire world. These blueberry barrens are also great for growing upland sandpipers. Upland sandpipers aren't that uncommon out in the west where there are prairie states, but here in the east, not so much. Plus, these blueberry barrens look like tundra, so you should see the snow buntings that come in here in the winter. Maine is the only state with nesting Atlantic puffins. There are over 4,600 islands along the Maine coast, but only 5 of them are good enough for nesting puffins, and one of those might be Canadian. Americans fought the British twice 2.5 centuries ago, but neither treaty that ended those wars ever agreed on who owned Machias Seal Island, the biggest puffin colony. It's a few hundred yards closer to American soil than Canadian soil, but both countries claim it. The Canadians staff the lighthouse and research station, but the 2 countries agree to share the lobster fishing around it, which still gets testy at times. Let's just say the island's 10,000 nesting puffins, 2,000 razorbills, and 1,000 common murres own it. Maine is the only state that borders just one other state, but that's not important right now. What is important is that Maine's border with Canada is over 600 miles long. We stick way up into Quebec and New Brunswick. When you get to the top of New Hampshire, Vermont, New York, you're only halfway to the top of Maine. A lot of birds that are found primarily in Canada are also found in Maine, including rare American three-toed woodpecker. Their more numerous cousin, blackback woodpecker, spruce grouse, boreal chickadee, Canada jay, lots of white-winged and red crossbills. Maine is the most forested state in America. Nearly 90% of the entire state is forest. Up here in the northern part of the state, it's the largest unfragmented forest east of the Mississippi. There's about 12 million acres of bird breeding real estate. We make a lot of baby birds up here. Maine is wicked wet. A quarter of the entire state is freshwater wetland. Maine has 4 times the wetland area of the other 5 New England states combined. There are over 6,000 lakes and ponds. We make a lot of baby water birds, and that doesn't even include the saltwater marshes and the mudflats. The Gulf of Maine is weird because the Gulf Stream carries warm water past Maine and over to England. For instance, it seldom snows in London, even though it's the same latitude as the northern tip of Newfoundland, because the Gulf Stream carries tropical currents that way. But cold waters of the Labrador Current sneak down from the north and flow into the Gulf through this little notch in the continental shelf left by glaciers and sea level change. But the Gulf of Maine is unusually cold, which means it's oxygen rich, which means it's got a lot of sea life. In summer, the Gulf of Maine fills with birds from the South Atlantic. Great shearwaters come up from an island group halfway between South America and South Africa. Sooty shearwaters are up from Argentina. Wilson storm petrels are up from Argentina and Antarctica, and they can be some of the most numerous birds out here. Northern gannets are passing through from their huge nesting colonies in Quebec and Newfoundland. Oh, and there are whales. Maine has the only national park in the entire Northeast, Acadia National Park. The next nearest national park is in Virginia, 800 miles away. Maine has the only national monument in New England, Katahdin Woods and Waters National Monument. And Maine has one state park that's bigger than both of them combined. Baxter State Park up here in the North Maine woods. Well, those are my 8 reasons why Maine is weird, but there are more. Go ahead and suggest your own. It all comes out in the end.